Yes. Welcome everybody, Wildcat Fanalytics. So glad you're here with Mike and Jesse. Mike
Right on.
repping the desert logo. Yes.
Yeah, the OG.
We're
Yeah, good to
very
be back.
good to be back after an
Yeah.
incredible weekend in the mountains, 24-0 that coming into it, and we made it out 2-0. We're gonna start just with the Bear Down Award of the week for each of us
Yeah.
and get into some cool big picture stats, maybe some small picture stats, and then we'll pontificate as we do. Yeah, but let's go to you,
Yeah.
man. What's your Bear Down Award for the mountain schools?
It's not an individual player, and
Mm,
I know that we've prefaced this in the past that the award doesn't have to be specific to a player. For me, it's the point guards.
mm.
Both Jaden Bradley and Kylan Boswell played pretty darn good basketball. Maybe not elite Kylan, but darn good enough that like, man, we could really roll with that. JB, exceptional defense as always. Quick note. Evan Maya, NCAA stat guy, has his site, evanmaya.com. He's got Jaden Bradley as, I think, the most important player in the nation, which is nuts, obviously. And it's all the stuff he does,
Fascinating.
especially
Right.
especially his defense that like really stands out, even in statistically, even if you can't suss it out like, moment by moment. Um, but yeah, so JB's play, I think he had like 23 points and 3 assists over the course of those two games. Zero turnovers over the course of those two games, and exceptional defense. If he's making an impact like that offensively, as for like generating points, we've been asking about it all year. Wow. And then the return of Kylan Boswell, it still isn't, maybe the killer that we kind of expected coming into the season and that we probably saw at Duke. Um, and there's I got some notes on like how that's impacting the team, but good, like good play, good enough for me, man. Good enough to crush the mountain schools. I don't know the last time we swept that trip, so that was awesome.
Right on. I think it was 2014 when we
Nice.
before Ashley went down. Yeah, yeah. I think they said
That makes sense.
I think I knew that, but I think they also reiterated that on the one of the broadcasts. It might have been the
Which
the Utah game. Um,
okay,
yeah, but it's brutal for all the reasons that
yeah,
everybody's discussed. Do you think the point guard play this weekend was at a general level that keeps a championship ceiling?
yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm getting at. Yeah,
yeah.
those are if those guys are playing at that level, and the rest of the guys are doing what they're doing, and I'm sure you're going to talk about some of that, then we can keep going. And that's what we're all hoping for.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and mine similarly is not necessarily one player. I'm gonna illuminate one play from the Colorado game, but my what I noticed in both these games that I if I'm framing this optimistically is that we have had a pattern this year of teams coming at us, and when they come at us, we usually, in those games that we've lost, at least, we haven't been able to respond. And of course, in certain games, we've played well enough that it doesn't matter. But these were
Hmm.
two games where it was going to matter because the teams are good enough and the setting is tough enough. And so, what I loved against Utah, even though a lead dissipated,
Yeah.
and it was probably I actually was at basketball practice with my son, or else I would have probably lost my mind. But I think
You
cats
were
cats fans were
upset.
losing their minds. Yeah,
You were upset. Yeah.
I was kind of like at the end of practice, I was trying to get it on Bleacher Report, and I was like, what the hell? How is this game in overtime? Like I figured
Yeah.
we'd win by 6 or 7. I figured they'd come
Yeah.
back, but and then watching the replay, I'm like, yeah, we probably should have won by 6 or 7. Similar to
Yeah.
FAU, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay, so all those criticisms aside, we were able to take the best punch in those games and
Hmm.
actually and in Colorado's example, we were able to really like push the throttle and be like, no.
Yeah. 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 Not a
So
chance.
that resilience to me is really intriguing, and I think we did it in different ways in both games, which we'll get into a little bit more. So that was really exciting to me. I'm gonna shout out Umar Balo.
Yeah.
God, he does so I'm gonna and show you one clip that I think it's not so much about Umar as this represents the play of the game for me. And the thing is, like, we can look at Colorado and say, We won by 20. This game was never in doubt. But actually, we had I told you I tracked every possession.
Yeah,
So I've got them all.
dedication.
So I was just curiosity too. And so like this was a point in the game where we were up. I think we had led 18-10,
Right.
and they actually scored seven straight. And that would have been the moment where they could have turned the game a little
I,
bit. Possibly,
it,
maybe not. Maybe it would have gone the same way.
and as a fan, that's when it started to feel like, oh, okay, we're not going to walk away with this.
Right. And so then we have this possession here where Lewis drives and misses a shot, and Ballo's going to get an offensive rebound for an and one.
Yeah,
And not only was that huge that he was able to go after that and get that. And that was it's really emblematic of his rebounding the last few weeks. But also just that when we got to that point, we didn't just collapse and stand around looking confused. We went after
yeah,
we were typical of going after plays and making them happen. And then he made the free throw and of course shot really well. So I was just promoting our overall response, and it's been exciting to hear people say that Muehlbach had a really interesting line. I don't know if you watch Wildcat Country. Shout out Wildcat Country
I missed
podcast.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they had Muehlbach on there, and he said he was
I
actually at
saw.
shoot
Yeah,
around. Did you hear that?
no,
He
no.
was at shoot around in Utah because he did the game in Utah, and he said
Yeah.
he'd never heard Tommy be as like tough with his team as he was in shoot around. You know, and right. And he was saying like everybody expects you to lose this game. You're not supposed to win this game, but this is a game that teams like us have to come out and win. Like there's no more
Yeah,
fucking around basically. Like you have to
yeah,
come
yeah,
out and be a team that is serious about competing, which I thought was pretty exciting to hear. So super cool. So
yeah.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
heard I heard similar comments from Tommy heading into, or maybe it was just from the players speaking about what Tommy said as far as like, hey, heading into that Colorado game, you know, what was the message, like what was the pep talk, and it was like, look, there's no excuse, like you need to go win, you know, like this is everyone's going to give you an excuse of why you shouldn't be winning this game, like just like are we a great team or are we a team that just makes an excuse and rolls over?
Beautiful.
And
Yep.
those guys put the excuses aside and went and completely dismantled that Colorado team. And a quick double shout out to Balo, and I'm glad that you highlighted him there. You know, he wasn't good in that first Colorado game, and it didn't matter because we were good. The whole team was like, you know, kind of rolled. He was very, very good, very productive. You know, I think he had 4 points in that first one. He had, you know, something like 15, 14, 16, somewhere in there in this most recent one. So kind of vanquished you know, a poor performance and came out on top against Lampkin, which, you know, feels good.
Totally always feels good. Yeah, and lost in the whole weekend to me. This is the part I actually watched before we went to basketball practice. I watched the first half of Utah, and I have to say that that first half, I think it was 41-25. That was some of the most connected team defense that I've seen from us all year. And so
Yeah.
it seemed like we didn't, I mean, shoot. Sometimes like you look at these guys, all right, I'm not gonna go off the rails too much here. Some of it's really great shot making,
Yeah.
and some of it's really bad offensive decision making that then leads into transition. And that was one thing I thought that they didn't do great against Colorado. Colorado scored pretty easily in transition, and we looked a little bit yeah, a little lazy. I'd like to see some of those stats,
Yeah.
but the first half against Utah where we really had a possession by possession focus, KJ
Hmm.
Lewis was maybe the best player on the court, and he struggled the rest of the weekend. But
Yeah.
that first half against Utah was incredible. So I'd like to try to bottle that up and see if we can. I thought we were better in the first half against Utah than we were the whole game against Colorado. We did enough against
Wow.
Colorado, but their offense was pretty good. I mean, I think they were over a point of possession. They shot
Hmm.
48%. We did pretty well in the half court just on the eye test, but yeah, some good things.
Yeah. Some good things. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got you want me to give my little points per possession stat, or do you want to move on to the because that's a Colorado specific thing.
Yeah. Let's talk
Okay.
about it.
So I charted every possession through the Ballo pick and roll that you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
And I was just curious because I thought we our continuity looked better.
Yeah.
And it turns out that our points per possession on possessions that went 4 passes or more was about 1.18,
Okay. Very
and
good.
the points per possession on possessions with 3 or fewer passes
Mm-hmm.
was around 1.3.
It's even better.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
one thing you and I were talking about was how aggressive off the dribble we were against Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've got a couple examples of that, but I wondered if you wanted to make any comment about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that being aggressive off the dribble is something that we were circling from the kind of the get-go at the beginning of this season when we were talking about, hey, what does success look like for this group? And it's, rim finishing because it's such you saw coming in on the summer, right, that this was going to be such an imposing athletic group that could really get downhill and put some pressure on.
Yep. I'm going to pull up
And
our foul rates as you're saying that. Yep.
yeah, and so we've seen and we've noted, hey, rim finishing trending up and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and that, yeah, that's been great to see. I think that that's probably what we're hoping for. Oh, and I sent this. I want to. I'm gonna. Can I pull a quick tangent?
Please.
Look at Pella Larson and KJ and sorry, Keyshawn Johnson's stats, and look how freaky similar these are. It's honestly shocking.
Mm.
Rim finishing almost the exact same. Two field goal percentage from 2 point jumpers almost the exact same. The 3 point finishing, obviously Pella is the better 3 point shooter, but who saw 36 or was it 38 now
He's
from
at perimeter
Keyshawn?
38. Yeah, he hit one against
Yeah.
Colorado. 1 for 1, I think.
And then the free throw percentage pretty darn similar, although that's Pella needs to step it up there. So just interesting to see Keyshawn become just such a. I think we probably expected those numbers at a Pella, or at least those of us who believe in Pella.
I did.
But
Yeah.
Keyshawn being that versatile as a scorer has been really interesting and probably bodes super well if he can keep it up all the way through the tournament.
Yeah. And one thing that I didn't finish the point last
I know.
episode, but like one thing I meant to say on the free throw rate is that
Yeah.
when I looked at this team in the fall, I looked at Love and Larson and Ballo, and I said, we should destroy teams from the free throw line. It's not going to
Mm.
be sexy, but we should like really kill people for. Do you have a sense of what like an average free throw rate is for a starting five? Do we have those numbers?
That's really interesting. Yeah, let
Yeah,
me pull that up really quick.
because
I'm sure.
outside of Boswell, I mean, these guys can and you throw KJ and Krivas in there, two guys that
Hmm.
can really draw contact. We've got outside of Ballo being the outlier, and of course he's the one whose foul rate is the highest. We have like a really good free throw shooting team. Like everybody's
Yeah.
around 75 or better.
Yeah, it's a quality group. We're actually just we're in the top 100 basically as far as free throw rate, which is surprising, but there's a lot of teams, they do a lot of different things. And let's see what about average is probably about 32%. We're at like 36% of this as far as like how many free throw attempts we take versus field goal attempts. So
Yeah. See,
um up
and I think we can even do better. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this maybe dovetails into your investigation on transition threes, right?
Yeah, so this was super interesting to me. I was curious about one. I saw this from a Substack that I subscribe to and follow, and that I really enjoy. Hoop Vision talks about NBA as well as NCAA offensive sets and just trends. And he was talking about, hey, the transition threes, the rise of transition threes as far as popularity in NCAA basketball. I was I guess not surprised for this season, but you see Arizona down there in that bottom right quadrant, right? Um, we're below average in the number of transition threes we take. Um, and so, but I started pulling on that thread and going, gosh, like, well, obviously we're a pretty prolific transition scoring team.
Right.
Where are those attempts going?
And obviously,
And
just based on this, just so people are reading the axis,
yeah,
it's a high. We're at the high end of transition opportunities.
totally.
Yeah, yeah,
But we're not using them on the transition three, which I thought was interesting. And then, thinking about last season, that was a big opportunity for us. Like we took a lot of transition threes. I looked at the numbers. We're down 28% in terms of the number of transition threes we take. So it is meaningfully lower this year versus last year. Where did those go? Well, we're up about 25% in the amount of rim looks that we take on transition, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to trade, especially in college, where transition threes are probably like a 35%? We're actually really good at it. We shoot 40%. But do you want to trade those for rim looks? You probably do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on total, our transition opportunities is basically the exact same as last year through
Hmm.
24 games, which is crazy. We're up 2%, which is basically noise, right? Now we're a little lower on total transition points. We're 6% lower, and that's because we have been such a great transition three team.
Hmm.
So that trade, you go, oh, well, when you're a little lower in points, maybe that's not a great trade. But we're so darn great at second chance points, at putback opportunities. One of the best in the nation, if not maybe the best. Our putback attempts and points to this point in the season are 50% higher than last year.
Hmm.
So not only do we get that opportunity to attack the rim, we get the opportunity to get that rebound and try again if we don't make it. So yeah, it just speaks to what you were talking about. Like, this is a team that is finding a lot of success driving the ball and getting it inside. And maybe that's not always pretty, but man, is it productive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an awesome graph. And 35% is 1.05, right? Like
Hmm.
what percent you have to shoot from two to beat 1.05? Is that like 52, 53, something like
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can make 53 or better at the rim, you're justifying going to the rim. And our
And
guys
we
are
and we score
around
like
60. Yeah.
yeah, we score like 65 or something like
Right.
that, somewhere in that range,
Oh,
right?
okay. So that's way
So
better, unless you're shooting.
yeah,
But we're at 40, so our transition offense is pretty efficient, is what you're saying.
that's the deal. Is yeah, when you're like last year, we were 42% from three and transition threes, like we were killer.
Yeah.
So you go, gosh, do you want to really give that up? Well, this team does.
Mm,
I do wish we were shooting more threes generally. That's something that I want to talk about with you today.
mm.
So I don't know if I don't want to step on your thread here. Like, you were talking about your drives versus
No,
versus
I
working the
think
continuity.
it's all stuff. It's
Let it
all
go.
the same stuff. Let's do it.
So, it just strikes me as interesting that this team is such a good 3-point shooting team. We shoot like 37% or something like that on threes. It's really good. Especially with a group that maybe you didn't think would be, Jaden's shooting really well from three.
Yeah.
Caleb is shooting 38% from three in conference,
Keyshawn.
right?
Oh, in conference. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, no, and then Keyshawn on the season is shooting 38% from three. And so and then and
Keyshawn
then
and KJ are both around 40 in conference. Yeah.
yeah, and that's crazy, right? And then
Hmm.
Pella as well is shooting extremely
Pella's
well.
just Pella. Yes.
Yeah. I think probably Kylan's struggles lead us to not shooting as many threes. I think we probably
Hmm.
expected him to take a lot this season. I did, certainly.
Hmm. And he's when he does shoot, his normal volume is up around seven or eight a game, which is
Yeah.
pretty high volume. Yeah.
Yeah, very high volume, right?
Right.
And so it just seems like he's been reluctant, which kind of leads to us
Mm.
having a lower. So we're in like I think for the season, 43rd percentile, a number of 3-point attempts that we take per game.
Mm. We're slightly
Um,
below average,
Slightly below average.
which is significant because I heard someone else say the other day that we get the most field goal attempts. We've had the
Right.
most field. I mean, part of that's we've had a triple overtime game and a double overtime game, but I'm not sure if that's attempts or possessions or what. But it seems like we get the
Yeah.
most shots of anybody in the country. Is
Yeah,
that
probably right.
accurate?
If we
Yeah,
don't, then we're right there.
we're
Yeah.
right
So
there. Right,
I've heard us say, like the most assists, most attempts.
right.
If we're not number one, then we're in that top range with probably
Hmm.
like an Alabama or a
Right,
BYU maybe.
right.
Um, and then the other thing that got me thinking about was 3-point defense.
Yep.
Um, and the Athletic had an article out recently where they were talking about championship contenders and tiering them, and they tiered. There's like 4 tiers. Like, where do you think they put Arizona?
3-point defense.
No, so
In
tiers
ter-
as far as
oh,
championship contention. Top tier, let's say top tier is UConn and
got it. Got it.
and
It's
Purdue.
like the statistically most bulletproof kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, the bulletproof list. I would say we're probably in the second tier because of the 3-point defense.
I would have thought second. We were in the third tier because
Yeah,
of the three
yeah.
point, and that's shocking to me because I do think we're that kind of a second tier group. We're slated for a one seed, right? You'd think we'd be right
You'd hope.
there,
Yeah.
but they pointed out something that we've obviously felt.
Hmm.
250th in the country or so in opponents 3-point percentage.
Hmm.
That's the ways that, and I noted the ways that we've gotten beaten is that we've just let people just absolutely torch us
Yeah.
from three. Even Utah on this last game shot 38% from three. Um,
And that was
you know,
that was going 1 for 8 in overtime. So
yeah,
in regulation, I think they were 10 for 21, which is exactly what Wisconsin was. Yeah. And
that's
same amount of points, 73 points. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Right. I
Um,
think or
but
76. Yeah.
even with that, even with that game included, over the last 5 games, our opponent, I got a little glare. Where is it? Our opponent,
He's complaining about the
uh,
paradise getting in
yeah,
his in the way.
yeah, you like that? Our opponent field goal percentage on threes is
I
the
think he said
opponents are only
99.
shooting.
Yeah.
They're only shooting 35% on threes in the last 5 games, and so we've really stepped it up as far as. And look, maybe that's just super variable.
Or that's variability. Yeah.
You
Colorado
know,
missed a few open ones for sure.
yeah.
3-point
So
shooting
it
is fascinating to me in that people seem to very quickly attribute the defense. Is 3-point shooting defense almost similar to like attributing batting average for balls hit in play in baseball? I don't know if you're a baseball guy, you got to Braves. You know
I
that
gotta, I
stat,
gotta,
like how
no, I don't know the stat though.
pitchers basically have very little to do with what happens once the ball goes in play, but
Yeah, totally.
you attribute like, oh, he got that out. Well, no,
Yeah,
all
you're
he
like that
can
was
do
a
is
hit.
throw the
And you're
ball.
like, well,
He can throw the ball where he wants, and then it's up to the hitter, right? And
yeah,
so 3-point defense feels like similar in the way that fans will easily be like, oh, they went 5 for 28. That was great defense. Maybe I thought our defense in certain ways against Oregon State was better, and they're hitting
I did too.
fadeaway 25 footers. Like, what are you going to
And what are
do?
you gonna do?
What are you going to do? And
Yeah,
so in Colorado,
that
like we did okay, but they had some open ones, man.
they absolutely did. And if you
Yeah,
rewatch that thing, you don't
yeah.
you don't feel good. You're like, man, they
No,
just clanked some.
I would not say like I hear on the media people saying we just dismantled them. Look, we executed beautifully. It was one of our best offensive games. We made shots. They scored 79 points and they missed a bunch of open shots.
A
Yeah.
bunch of open shots. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of tough possessions that we played really good half court defense for sure. And
Totally.
it's again, it speaks to this thing that's weird about Arizona. It's like I want to make excuses when we beat somebody that they missed open shots, but then I want to complain when Stanford just hits everything. And it's
Right.
like it does speak to how well you have to shoot to beat us. Like they would Colorado
Which
would have
feels
had
great.
to shoot out of the gym and
Yeah.
they still wouldn't have been within 10 of us because they had a pretty good game.
And Utah did shoot out of the gym, and they
Yes.
still lost
Yes.
in
And
Triple A
Caleb
to
Love played
us.
one of his worst games. Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to mention that or not.
No,
The
I mean, look, I'm not beating up the guy because he's amazing. And I, like Mike Luke says, shout out Mike Luke,
yeah.
Wildcat podcast. I'm
Hmm.
here for the whole Caleb Love experience because he's earned it. He is a
Yeah.
baller through and through.
Yeah, he
I
is.
just hope that he continues to trust his teammates like he does in the better games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's frustrating to see him kind of stop the ball and make some really
Yeah,
poor decisions in that game. But overall, love the guy. He's been great for us.
he's been great. And he's like you
Yeah.
said, he's shooting. What is he shooting in conference play from
He's
three?
shooting 38% on 100 attempts. So
Take
it's
it
not like we're
all
not,
day. Take it
yeah, we're
all
not, we're
day.
not talking a small sample size here. Yeah, he's been playing extremely well.
And
Um,
underrated. I'll just say real quick, this could have been my
yeah, please.
bear down award. He, I don't know if it's been said, but he really took a lot of the defensive possessions against Cody Williams, and I thought
Ooh,
he given up height. I thought he did a really nice job bothering him around screens. He was responsible for some of the turnovers. And I thought Love's defense was really critical to disrupting some of those possessions. Conversely, Cody Williams did an underrated job on Love. Love really struggled from two in that game. I think he had two
yeah.
field goals, and one of them was that breakaway dunk.
Uh-huh.
He got blocked a couple times at the rim. Anyway, I thought Love played a really good game against Colorado, and credit Cody Williams for actually some underrated defense on him.
We're not.
Yeah,
No one's giving credit to Cody Williams.
I
He played a
know, I
full
know.
game.
I mean, he just happened to be the guy. I'm not mentioning him because of the
I'm
recruiting
kidding.
stuff, but
Kid.
he's, so okay. Keep going. So what do you make? So that was my question. What do you make of 3-point defense? Like, how much can a team
You
actually
know,
do?
Ken Palm had that thing like a few years ago. I don't know if you heard about this, but he highlighted it and brought it sort of up where he said, "Look, like statistically, it's like it might as well be free throw defense. You know what I mean? Like that's how
That's
much
what I'm
control
saying. Right.
you often have, and so you're just riding
You're
the
riding the
wave
wave.
of like, hey, are they going to hit that shot? Because a lot of these shots are going to be open shots, and or a lot of them are contested, but guys are just feeling it, and that's a lot different than kind of 2-point interior defense where it's you can wall guys off or use
Keep
your
going.
length. It's
I'm
yeah,
inspired. I'm calling an audible. Keep going. I'm gonna look up
yeah,
something and I'll explain it to you when
love
we
it.
get there. Yeah, yeah.
I know, and it's been a conversation on the boards because on walkoutauthority.com as always, shout out
Shout out,
walkoutauthority.com.
Jay Shear.
Winger that's on there has been adamant that 3-point defense is not a real thing.
Mm,
Now at the
mm,
same time, we've seen Arizona get beaten by by opposing 3-point shooting, probably because of our defensive schemes, right?
right.
So like the scheme that we wrote up versus Purdue where you're helping off the pass into the big, and then the big just sends it right back, and it's a really easy, quick open three that you can't travel back. The man can't beat the ball, right?
Right.
That maybe is an area where it's like, okay, that one game, like we just didn't scheme correctly.
I
I
mean,
am curious if,
you can definitely make teams comfortable and make it easy on them for sure.
yeah,
But that's been
totally.
our frustration with the drop coverage. Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, and I think that we're going to need to watch a bunch more film and do maybe another breakdown here. Like in what ways have we adjusted that coverage? I know that we've seen us have Balo play more up to the touch, which is that's an arm's length behind the screen. That's not hedging
Yeah.
out at the screen and forcing the ball handler away, but it is getting more on it. That dissuades some of those shooting. We've seen Balo a heck of a defensive effort to close out on some guys in
Yeah.
that mountain trip.
Yeah.
Really incredible. So he's got an extra spring in his step. I don't know if that's just coaching or good health or what, but
He's playing really hard. Got to give him, for as frustrating as he can be at times, like he really
yeah,
is he's playing like a leader. And somebody reminded me that last year in January he had a pretty serious illness, and I think that
yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
broken hand in March was a pretty big deal. I'm gonna take a pivot here, not even a pivot, but
Please.
check this out. So I jumped on the exercise bike yesterday because we were getting this huge snowstorm. And I was showing my son that Arizona, Kansas,
Oh my
1997,
gosh, look
Sweet
at you.
16, right? And by the way, I mean, this is fascinating. We could do a whole thing this summer.
Might have
It
to.
it really made me appreciate how difficult it is to coach the modern game because
Mm.
this game was actually
Oh,
really sloppy.
jeez.
I mean, I could say a lot of things, but first of all, when you had the 3-point line where it is, there are like three guys in this game that can shoot. I mean, Jock Vaughn was an All-American, and they're leaving him like almost alone. Watch.
Right.
So I just want to show real quick. Watch where the Arizona defense sets up, and particularly Bramlett on Pollard.
Yeah.
It's almost comical. And then try to imagine this in today's game. Look
Yeah.
at it. Look at this.
Look how
Look
deep
at
you
this.
are.
Every Arizona guy is inside
Yeah.
19-9. Like
That's
the three
crazy.
point line today is out here. Like
You'd have
offenses are out here now.
Yeah, you'd have guys spaced out. I mean, one, the line moved back, right? And then two,
Yes,
you'd
people can
you'd have
shoot.
guys you'd
Yeah,
have guys spaced out and you just get absolutely torched trying to run
torched.
that kind of defense.
Look at this. So like,
No
here's
one
this.
cares. No
No
one
one
cares.
no one cares. Look at all five guys inside the 3-point line. Ready? You double team Paul Pierce. So I mean, it's a totally
That's
like
awesome.
I think and in the first like I want to say 10 possessions total, there were like
Yeah,
eight turnovers in that game. I
yeah,
mean,
beautiful.
I think the focus today on analytics and video has put, I think the game is so clean now that,
Yeah.
and you have so many more shooters
Hmm.
that it must be really, really hard to figure out how to defend. And I actually, if I were
Yeah.
Tom Lloyd, I'd probably do the same thing he's doing. And I think as you get, as you move along here with the realities of the modern game, I just think there's such a premium on versatile fives. And that's,
Wow.
like, because
Yeah.
that's the difference. Like
Yeah.
if you can disrupt ball screen coverage with Koloko, or hopefully an Emmanuel Steven, or God, I love this kid Staten that we're recruiting. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Xavier Staten?
Yeah.
So I think, like, I'm hoping Tommy's going that direction. And Kribas,
It's
for his size, has pretty good feet and he's aggressive. So I have hope for him too.
it's so funny that you say that. You just brought me back to a memory. I totally forgot I did this earlier this week. I was watching 2014 at San Antonio Spurs highlights. They were so freaking good with 5 out offense,
Hmm.
and Timmy was so intelligent and versatile. That was just such a with Dio and Ginobili and Parker and Kawhi Leonard, just an incredibly versatile team where everyone moved, everyone passed really quickly, and there was an emphasis on, if I remember correctly, it was called, like, it was a 0.5 offense where you had half a second, you had 0.5 seconds to either
Hmm.
pass, shoot, or drive. Um,
Mm.
and so that which got picked up by um, the Warriors, and then the Bucks started doing some of that same similar stuff later. Um, Very cool stuff, but it speaks to one, how nerdy we are rewatching all,
I love it.
and then two, the difficulty and the difficulty of defending it in today's game, because the intelligence on the offensive end and the skill is just like,
It's
I think it's just
so,
not.
and my 9-year-old, he's just started watching basketball. So
Yeah,
his baseline is the modern NBA. He started watching
yeah,
playoffs last year, and he's watching the Celtics. And those teams, 50% of the field goal attempts are threes almost these days.
yeah.
And certain teams. And he's watching the Warriors. He loves Curry. And so we're watching this, and I was like, August, this is potentially the most important game in Arizona history,
Right.
like maybe the one we celebrate the most. I remember I was coming home from college on spring break. I was flying home that night and I watched the replay till 3 in the morning on the East Coast because I was so
That's
jacked.
awesome.
And now
Good
I
for
watch
you.
it, I watch it today, and my son's like,
It was ugly.
why are they taking such bad shots? And I'm like, you're right,
They don't
man.
know any better.
It's a different game. It almost
Yeah,
looked
it's a
like
different game.
like a pickup, like a really ugly pickup game for a while.
Yeah,
There were great moments, and of course, great. Like I said, hey, Kansas. Like I think all five of those guys made the NBA, and
right.
I think four of our guys did on
Yeah.
that
Those are
roster.
good
So
basketball. Those are great
those are
basketball
good
players.
players,
And that's what they look like.
and that's what they
It's
look
interesting.
like. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that the the lack of reliance, I guess, for us on a 3-point shot maybe makes me feel a little more secure
Hmm.
in the reliability of our team to just go get buckets.
Yep.
Is that something you think about when you think about the tournament and the variability of the 3-point shooting?
Yeah, well, I liked the way Tommy explained it last year or 2 years ago when he said like easy twos translate in the tournament.
Yeah,
Threes are fun because they usually propel a 14 over a three or a 15
totally.
over two. And that's why there was the anomaly of losing to Princeton last year is still mind-blowing to me because like
Yeah,
even on a weak game, we should be able to gut that
go
out.
get.
But yeah, like his teams basically with enough talent should never lose a first round game because of that system. There's so many free throw attempts and easy twos. And so my whole thing is we're actually a pretty good 3-point shooting team if we take the right ones.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think we could be deadly. And that's why obviously like against Wisconsin, against Oregon, we've had games where we've shot the lights out and we take good threes and we're a heck of a I mean, you can't stop us if we're shooting 10 of 19 or what were we from Wisconsin? We were like 12 or 26 or something.
yeah. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, like forget it. And so I think I loved the out of bounds play for Pella for three
Yeah,
at Utah. I want to see
that
more
was
of
great.
that. I love when we get Caleb Love catch and shoot.
totally.
I mean, I think we should be focused on catch and shoot threes. Keyshawn, catch and shoot. We can
Hmm.
shoot. We could shoot well enough to where it shouldn't be like last year where we're 5 for 27 against Utah or something, and like we couldn't be
Yeah.
in the game. You know, defense aside, we couldn't shoot ourselves back in the game. I don't think it should be a limiting
Yeah.
factor at all. I think it should just be a
Yeah.
factor that can elevate us or be neutral.
Yeah, and I think that the 2 point proficiency and the rim pressure with the offensive rebounding being
Hmm.
part of that, like lifts the floor and takes
Yep.
away some of that variability, right? Because when we talk about 3 point defense being something that you can't really control, that also speaks to 3 point shooting being something that often you can't really,
Yeah.
sometimes you're just cold. And it's one thing to be cold from deep and not and you shoot yourself out of a game, or you shoot
Like
the
Alabama.
whole
Yeah.
yeah. Totally,
Yep.
exactly. Like
Hmm.
Alabama, if they were hitting, like that's a really, really difficult game, and maybe they win that game, right?
Hmm.
As you noted back when we talked about that the first
Well,
time.
they've been like killing people since then, you know.
Yeah, they took that
Yeah.
personally, by the
Yeah.
way.
Well, and then that's
um,
partially variability. I mean, his whole
yeah,
thing, he's like hypermetrics, right? He's like, if we
yeah.
get up 40 a game, we're gonna win enough
You're
games.
talking Nate Oates,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And
yeah, yeah.
I don't agree with like being that reductive about it, but I do understand, I do appreciate the objectivity of it, that it's kind of a numbers game. And if you get enough good shooters and you practice that, then you're gonna win enough games. And but the downside of that is you could also lose in the first round because you're
Totally.
6 for 32 or something. Yeah.
Well, and then do you win six in a row that way? Like
Yeah, I think that's tough.
can you
Yeah,
roll the dice that many times? And so I do feel a lot better about
totally.
our ability. And it's been recent, especially I think that you've seen like Pella be more assertive and more aggressive hunting rim opportunities
Hey,
and
let's
Love as
let's go to
well,
the tape.
right?
Yeah,
Let's go to the tape.
let's go to the tape. So, not this
Let's
one.
watch some let's watch the
This you
97
want to go
Sweet
watch the
16
'97 game?
slop.
It's kind of sloppy, man. It's not that fun, but it was an amazing moment, and
Yeah.
I will never forget it. So here we are. Let's get some, let's get some Pella. You want some Pella?
Yeah, give me the
All
Pella.
right. So, there's nothing special about this except the fact that it's a really good thing, I think, when Pella's in attack mode. And this, to me, demonstrates how we were hunting drives instead of trying to overforce passing.
Hmm.
So you can kind of comment on this.
Got
So,
JV taking it up.
so Pella's
Dribble.
on to Silva, and he's like,
Yeah.
peace.
Bye.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
De Silva's a quality player. He's a first round pick, right? Projected.
Pella's a
And
good
he and now
player. Yeah.
and he did that against Lampkin, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's an easy one
Uh-huh. That one
to
too. Yep.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
Is he just like immediately looked at him and like, oh yeah, barbecue chicken, buddy,
Yep.
and
No
just crossed him
hesitation.
over, and no
Yep.
hesitation at all. And so I think the you got to feel pretty good about this team with Love and Larson being guys that are just going to continue to attack the rim,
Here's your
and
guy.
then Balo, and yeah, I love this.
Let's talk about the
So
action here.
yeah, so this is there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to go back and like break down what everybody's doing. But I think there's a key shot ghost screen,
Mm.
and then and
Well,
and
Boswell's over here. This is not a defender. This is actually a wayward fan going to get a beer. Confused me for a second.
he's leaving the game. Um,
This is where I
and
used to sit.
but what we get is we get Balo free, and this is something I talked about last time, where I really love the opportunity for Love because he
Mm.
draws so much attention
Yes.
to get it over top to
That's
um
actually, is this a ghost screen? Does Balo kind of slip this on purpose? Here, watch. I'll let it run. So he's
I
gonna
see
kind of
there's Keyshawn
there. He
go,
kind of
yeah,
fake.
yeah, both of them
Yeah,
did,
he's yeah. So it was like a double
yeah,
ghost.
yeah.
That's cool.
Which I think is super cool. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I was trying to suss out the action there. I'm like, are we weaving and then doing a ghost? But um, that those little wrinkles are awesome. A lot of
Yep.
teams are utilizing ghost screens. I think BYU is been like super proficient in them. I saw
Hmm.
Utah use a ton of them, and you just got to mix it up and try new things. And I love seeing our group, Tommy, Jack, the rest of the coaching staff, iterating, innovating, just trying different stuff to get the best punch that we have. And to me, love Balo two-man game is a really good one.
It's a really good one, and I hope
Yeah.
to see more of it. But I also hope to see more of Philly B's composure as a post entry. Look at this post entry
Dude,
under 3 on the shot clock pivot. I
and
mean,
right in the right spot. Did he?
yeah.
Yeah, he.
Can that dude get minutes, or is this just going to be is he a mascot? Like what?
He is gonna lead the WCC in scoring and assists next year, probably, and it's gonna be the effing bane of my existence. I don't
Yes.
know. I love him. Obviously, he's a very high usage player,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that fits what we do or what
Yeah.
we, I don't know if that fits the rest of the team. I feel like it can fit when we're talking about, hey, we just need somebody off the bench to generate to generate offense. But I love him. I think his
Yeah.
skill level and feel for the game is so high.
How about his
And
defense? Did
I think he tries
did
really
you see
hard.
that? Did you see him stop? Did you see him stop De Silva? I mean, it was
Yeah,
one
you texted
possession.
me.
Dude, do
Yeah,
I have that on here? What possession is that? Oh, I thought I had a note
it's.
on that. He shut down De Silva. I mean, it's got to be right around. I think it was right when he came in. I'll find it.
I mean, he was only in for like 3 minutes, unfortunately.
It's not that, it shouldn't be that hard to find, is what you're
Shouldn't be
saying.
that hard.
I
We
don't
could
think
actually
they,
just run
well,
it.
and I don't think they,
No, they're not going to show
I don't
the
think they,
defensive stop of Philly B on the extended highlight, unfortunately.
no.
Um, yeah, he moves his. I think he's got great quick feet. And I think he moves his hips well. Obviously, he's not like a wildly explosive player, but man, we
Yeah,
that leads
middle.
me
Yeah, go ahead.
that let and let there was a topic on the board on again Wildcat Authority.
Shout out.
Shout out that I got really involved in yesterday or the day before or whatever it was about what this team looks like next year, and a lot of the questions were about who do we play at the four. That was my big question. It's like, well,
Yeah,
what does the four look like?
Carter
And
Bryant. Yeah.
Carter Bryant's coming in. I think he's great. I think you could play him at the three. You could play him at the four. It seems like an obvious to me that you'd play KJ at the three and then Carter at the four. But a lot of people want to move Carter to the three, which is cool. He can play the three, and then we need somebody tougher or bigger for the four. Um, we got Philly, we got Paulie. Hopefully
Yep.
these guys. Paulie is mean, man. Paulie is tough. When I read some.
He looks slow laterally though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but that's how you can, if you're talking, oh, well, we need somebody that's strong and big at the four, and then that can rebound and stretch. Like
Oh, I see what you mean.
he can do that. I don't know that he's going to be like a defensive stopper at the four, but anyway, I like those guys. I want to see him play. Yeah, hopefully, we
Yeah.
get to see him play in an Arizona jersey at some point. But if not, Santa Clara Broncos, baby, something
Or
like that.
USF. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
USF plays. Yeah. Pilots, the pilots back, but I noticed the pilots
Shout out to the
your
pilots.
on your scatagram. They were way they take a
Yeah.
lot of threes. They
Yeah,
take a lot of
totally.
transition threes. What's his name? My man, the Cal guard, the guard that played at Cal for a year, is their coach. I went and saw them against Santa Clara last year, and they play fast. They
Do
really
they?
they don't play much defense, but they like to get
No,
up and
why
down.
not? Yeah, let's have some fun.
Well,
That's
you're gonna
awesome.
see we're gonna see this kid in a couple weeks, Moses Wood, who played for Portland last year. He was a really good player, and now he's lighting it up for Washington, which is one of the
Oh,
games that
nice.
actually concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, so let's talk about the games coming
Let's
up.
do it.
Yeah, so obviously, A1, Arizona State. I haven't thought a single bit about this thing. I'm not losing a damn bit of sleep, but
No.
I don't want to tempt fate, but
Well, here's the
Ken Palm
thing.
has it as a 20 point.
Yeah, it won't be. I mean, it'll
That
be
won't
like
be.
it'll be 40 or it'll be overtime. No,
Yeah.
I think if we look at I think what we all hope is that growth is linear and
Yeah.
that this team has now awakened into a new level of consciousness and this will be our standard. That's typically
Hmm.
like not the way especially adolescents work. And so
Yeah.
I think it's fair just to temper expectations to have a little bit more ebb and flow. I think hopefully we've seen the last of like uh you know rock bottom Boswell. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think like
As well
overall our spirit is trending well, our
in
focus
that,
is trending well.
in focus. Yeah.
Totally focus. I think that's trending well. What I would say is if you look at this team, the three road losses are against Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington State. Washington State's
Yeah.
a very good team. Stanford, I
Yes, sir.
loved it. By the way, shout out Field of 68. I usually just
Mm,
like kind of don't really listen to those guys, but Terrence Oglesby said
yeah.
the other
CO.
day, he said, I'm racking my brain. I can't understand why Stanford is not better. And I'm like, thank you.
I completely agree.
We,
Every year I say it, honestly,
yes, every year.
especially when I see them play us.
Jared Haas is still struggling from that 97 loss that we just showed. So then we come in and we've beat our three road wins beside Cal are against the three teams that haven't lost at home.
Yeah.
And obviously ASU then beat Utah. But so I would expect things to be a little backwards. So in that way, I just want to survive ASU.
Hmm.
If I think those games are always ugly, they play us tough in Tucson. There's no reason that the psychology sets up well for them to play well in Tucson. They played well last night.
Yeah.
Um, I think we should, the variable of offense, like they're in the low 200s in Ken Palm, right, offensively.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
very offensive variability is so much wider than defensive variability, and they're going to show up defensively,
Especially for ASU,
especially
offensive
for
variability for
ASU.
ASU. They're just constantly like,
Yeah, you
who
can't say
knows?
they're not good because all it takes is
Yeah.
the night they play you is all that matters. And they could go
Totally.
14 for 26 from three, and that still might not
Tough
be
to
enough to beat us, but
it's
be
enough to scare you.
it could be scary. So I
Yeah.
would say looking at this team, the games that scare me most, Oregon at home.
Sure.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Washington at home.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
Washington is a Saturday
Yeah.
after the Washington State game. And
Yeah.
Washington, I know people want to dismiss Washington, but a, they've got high level talent and they've got
They do.
shooters.
Yeah, they do.
They're not good defensively, but I'm not saying that I think we'll lose those games. I'm a little worried about Oregon because I have a feeling we could
Sure.
kind of like you always need to focus on Dana Altman's teams, and they
Mhm.
probably will have a better game for us than they did. And
They probably have the best collection of actual talent besides Arizona
right,
in the conference, right?
right.
And it's still Dana Altman who I've noted that he's trended down some. I think part of that's due to his assistant coaches leaving, but man, don't count him out. Do not overlook that game.
Well,
Um,
and as much as I'd love to say home court is automatic, this is not a
sure.
team that seems like it can go undefeated at home because of how in and out the focus has seemed. So I got a feeling if there's any game that's going to get us, it'd be Oregon. UCLA on the road is the easy one to say we'll lose, but that probably means that we're going to show up and accept the challenge. And honestly, like we didn't play well against UCLA at home, so I think that gives us a
Right.
chance to it could be
Redeem.
68-65, but I'm hoping that we kind of step up and try to ruin their senior night because that seems like something our team would want to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely
don't
the
know.
last Pac-12 game in Poly, and then the last
Totally.
Pac-12 game ever
Yep.
for Arizona
Yep.
at USC. So I'm sure that'll
Yep.
be tough. I'm sure
Dicey.
USC
Yep.
fans are gonna show up for it. I what I really like that we have to end this season, like right now, like the runway that we have, essentially a month at home.
Beautiful.
It's crazy.
And this week off is like perfect timing. Yeah.
Totally
Sets up
perfect timing.
beautifully. So we'll
That
probably
was a
play like
difficult
shit.
but there's a difficult road trip, and then that was a difficult stretch we went through. I think it really buoys us to have roughly basically 4 weeks of not leaving the state of Arizona, 4 weeks of
Yeah.
sleeping in your own bed or
Yes.
your favorite significant other's bed,
Yep.
however you get juiced up.
Careful.
I think that these guys, can hit the trainer table, they can just get right and
Yep.
stay right, and coming off of wins that feels a lot different than coming off of a lot, even one loss where you're going back and wondering, gosh, why aren't we? What did we
Yep.
do wrong? I think they're coming into this coaching staff, the team thinking, we're on a 5 game win streak. We're doing well. Like this is our opportunity to continue to build on that,
Yeah.
and
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 he
that gives you confidence.
totally. I think there's a good chance that we come through with maybe one or zero losses, maybe two. Hopefully, I think
It's
one is probably
possible.
what feels right. And
That's a
hopefully
better
that's
odds. Yeah,
I hate losing to UCLA, but that could be the safest one as long as they're not like they need to lose, man. I do have a little concern about them kind of sneaking up on the conference title. Obviously, we're in great
sure.
shape, but these guys, the way they've been, we could Oregon could shoot the lights out and just like nip us, and that kind of resets some of the table.
It wouldn't bother me if we lost like the semifinal of the Pac-12 tournament and
Absolutely.
we get to pack our bags and go home and
Absolutely. No, I want
get a
to. I'm rooting
massage
for
and
that. I'm rooting for that because each of the last 2 years we've had significant injuries in the Pac-12 tournament that have
yeah,
whether Tommy would ever admit it or not, like that Kerr
right.
injury 2 years ago was huge. Umar broke his hand. They didn't want to tell anyone last,
100%.
and Kerr got hurt last year again. So
Yeah.
no, my hope, my dream would be, well, obviously I'd love to
My
run the
dream
table. My dream in
and
life
stay
is to go,
healthy at the same time.
yeah, my dream in life is to go 7-0 and then lose a really tight semifinal game, and then get rested for the 1 or 2 seed that we get. Because
That would be
my
that.
thing about seeding is we're not yet at a level of our culture where seeding actually is the limiting factor to our success. I think
Right.
seeding is always important, obviously, but the variability in focus, intensity, and like games that can happen, like that 97 team, you know, like that was the first time a 14 had ever played a 10 in the Sweet 16. So you could have said, "Oh my gosh,
Wow.
what bad luck! Arizona got a 4. They'd be so much better off if they were a 2." I don't know. They played three 10+ seeds and then three one
Yeah.
seeds, right? Like
Yeah.
that was
Crazy.
so crazy, right? And then we're a 1 seed 2 years ago, and there were a ton of teams I'd have rather played that are higher seeded than TCU or Houston, you know?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
no matter what seed we get, we gotta just work on focus and intensity, and
Keep the
that's
head
it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's try to not lose on Saturday.
Step one. Step
No, I
one.
mean
Don't get embarrassed by ASU. That would be
I
helpful.
think you could start to get a little bullish on our growth if we blow them out. But
Yeah.
I mean ASU, like, gosh, for as farcical as they are sometimes, like those guys always play hard. That I
Yeah, it can
always
be
say, like, they're
scrappy.
they're the consistently hardest playing mediocre team that I've ever seen. They're always gonna play hard against us, obviously, and they got nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
expect them to shoot better than average and hopefully not great, but hopefully we can kind of survive them is my.
Yeah. And the one thing I'm gonna circle
Yep.
is are we driving? Are we
Yep.
driving to the rim? Are we staying in attack mode like that? Or are we drifting and settling for jumpers? And I don't care what the defense is, we need to find an opportunity. We need to find a way to get that ball inside, make some passes, create some opportunities to some windows to get towards the rim.
Yep.
So that's gonna be my big hope. That's what I'm looking forward to. Is there anything that you have in particular for you just wanted to stay tough? Anything?
Mm, like process oriented. You
Yeah.
know, I want to see the transition defense get a little
Okay.
sharper. I want to see our defensive communication really build off the first half against Utah. Really good,
That's the number one
really good.
difficulty for us. It has
Yeah.
to be
hmm
the communication on defense is just paramount.
I feel like
Um,
if we're solid there, it's pretty tough for anybody to beat us. I think Purdue,
yeah.
UConn might have enough kind of offense to outscore us, but if we're pretty solid on defense, we really control as much of our own fate as any recent Arizona team. But it's been a huge if. So I'd like to see the focus there. We're not going to always shoot that well, but we can at least bring that focus, and then that focus results in transition opportunities. So
Yeah, definitely.
let's do that. All right, Wildcat fans, bear down. Hopefully next week we'll be one step closer to a Pac-12 title and all those really super fun goals in March.
Yeah. Let's go talk about a killer win next week over ASU.
Cheers.